Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be exploring the disturbing case of feral child Genie Wiley. In October 1970, a young girl walked into a Los Angeles County welfare office. She had a funny walk and a weird look about her. She looked about 6 or 7. Her mother, stricken with cataracts, was seeking an office with services for the blind and had entered the wrong room. But the strange actions of the girl alarmed the welfare officers. At first they assumed autism. Then they discovered she could not talk. She could barely chew or swallow and could not fully focus her eyes or extend her limbs. She weighed just 59 pounds, around 26 kilograms, and despite looking 6 or 7, she was 13 years old. The name given to her to protect her identity was Genie. Genie was born in 1957, and when she was 20 months old, her father began keeping her in a locked room. During this period, he almost always strapped her to a child's toilet or bound her in a crib with her arms and legs immobilized. He forbade anyone from interacting with her, provided her with almost no stimulation of any kind, leaving her severely malnourished. The extent of her isolation prevented her from being exposed to any significant amount of speech, and as a result she did not acquire language during her childhood. But what kind of father could do this to their daughter? Genie's father, Clark Wiley, formerly known as Pearl Wiley before changing his name, mostly grew up in orphanages in the American Pacific Northwest. His father was killed by a lightning strike, and his mother ran a brothel while infrequently seeing him. Additionally, his mother gave him a feminine first name, which made him the target of constant derision. As a result, he harbored extreme resentment toward his mother during childhood, which was believed to be the cause of his subsequent anger problems. However, when Genie's father reached adulthood, he changed his first name to one which was more typically masculine, and his mother began to spend as much time with him as she could. He became almost singularly fixated on his mother and therefore came to treat all other relationships as secondary at best. Although Genie's parents initially seemed happy to those who knew them, soon after they married he prevented her from leaving home and beat her with increasing frequency and severity. Her eyesight steadily deteriorated as a result of lingering effects from her existing neurological damage, the onset of severe cataracts, and a detached retina in one eye, leaving her progressively more dependent on him. Despite having 4 children, only 2 of which survived, Genie's father was known to dislike children, finding them noisy. However, around 5 years into their marriage, his wife became pregnant. He beat her throughout the pregnancy, and near the end attempted to strangle her to death. She was in the hospital recovering from this when she gave birth to an apparently healthy daughter. Her father found her crying disturbing and placed her in the garage, where she caught pneumonia and died at the age of 10 weeks. Their second child, born approximately a year later, was born with complications and died at 2 days of age. 3 years later, they had another son, who doctors described as healthy. His father forced his wife to keep him quiet, causing significant physical and linguistic developmental delays. When he reached the age of 4, his paternal grandmother grew concerned about his development and took over his care for several months, and he made good progress with her before she eventually returned him to his parents. Genie was born about 5 years after her brother, around the time that her father began to isolate himself and his family from all other people. A medical appointment at 3 months showed that she was gaining weight normally, but found a congenital hip dislocation, which required her to wear a highly restrictive fracas splint from the age of 4.5 to 11 months. This caused her to be late to walk, which researchers believed led her father to start speculating that she was mentally retarded. As a result, he made a concentrated effort not to talk to or pay attention to her, and strongly discouraged her mother and brother from doing so as well. Genie's father increasingly confined her to the second bedroom in the back of the house while the rest of the family slept in the living room. During the daytime, for approximately 13 hours, he tied her to a child's toilet in a makeshift harness, which he forced her mother to make. It was designed to function as a straitjacket, and while in it she wore nothing but a diaper and could only move her extremities. At night, he usually tied her into a sleeping bag and placed her in a crib with a metal screen cover, keeping her arms and legs immobilized, and researchers believe that he sometimes left her on the child's toilet overnight. If Genie vocalized or made any other noise, her father would beat her with a large plank that he kept in her room. To keep her quiet, he bared his teeth and growled like a dog at her, and he grew his fingernails out to scratch her. If he suspected her of doing something he did not like, he made these noises outside the door and beat her if he believed she had continued to do it, instilling in her an intense and persistent fear of cats and dogs. Throughout this time, Genie's father almost never permitted anyone else to leave the house. only allowing her brother to go to and from school and requiring him to prove his identity through various means before entering. Genie's mother was passive by nature and was almost completely blind throughout this time. Her husband continued to beat her and threatened to kill her if she attempted to contact her parents, close friends, or the police. He also prevented his son from seeking help and beat him with increasing frequency and severity, which led to Genie's brother trying to run away on several occasions. Genie's father was convinced that she would die by the age of 12 and promised that if she survived past that age, he would allow her mother to seek outside assistance for her, but he went back on his word once Genie turned 12. In November 1970, Genie was 13 years old and still being subjected to abuse. Genie's brother, 18 at the time, had ran away and was now living with friends. Genie's mother decided to apply for disability benefits due to her blindness in nearby Temple City, California, and brought Genie with her. But on account of her near blindness, she accidentally entered the General Social Services office next door. The social worker who greeted them instantly sensed something was wrong when she saw Genie, and they immediately contacted the police. Her parents were arrested, and she became a ward of the court where she was immediately taken to the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. On November 20th, the morning before Genie's father was scheduled to appear in court on child abuse charges, he committed suicide by gunshot. Police found 2 suicide notes, one intended for his son, which in part said, "Be a good boy, I love you," and one directed at police which said, "The world will never understand." Scientist James Kent stated that his initial examinations of Genie revealed the most severe case of child abuse he would ever encounter. She was extremely pale and grossly malnourished, standing at 4 feet 6 inches and weighing only 59 pounds, with 2 nearly full sets of teeth in her mouth, and had a distended abdomen. Despite early tests confirming she had normal vision in both eyes, she could not focus them on anything more than 10 feet away, corresponding to the dimensions of the room her father kept her in. In June 1971, Genie's special ed teacher Gene Butler agreed to foster her, and Genie started showing the first signs of reaching puberty, marking a dramatic improvement in her overall physical health. In her journal, Butler wrote that she had gotten Genie to stop attacking herself when angry, and had taught her to instead express her anger through words or by hitting objects. Butler also claimed that shortly after moving in with her, Genie had become noticeably more talkative and that she had made substantial progress with her language acquisition. In 1975, Genie returned to live with her birth mother, but when her mother found the task too difficult, Genie was moved through a series of foster homes, where she was often subjected to further abuse and neglect. Genie's situation continued to worsen. After spending a significant amount of time in foster homes, she returned to Children's Hospital. Unfortunately, the progress that had occurred during her first stay had been severely compromised by the subsequent treatment she received in foster care. Genie was afraid to open her mouth and had regressed back into silence. As of 2023, there is no public record of whether Genie is still alive, and if she is, where she is living. If she were alive, she would be 66 years old. A private investigation conducted in 2000 reportedly revealed that Genie was living in an adult care facility with subpar conditions, but described her as being happy. Overall, the story of Genie Wiley is disturbing and tragic. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps a lot.